April 24th, 2024. A single day that Austin will remember for decades. Before sunrise, Oracle, the crown jewel of Austin's tech boom, announced it was abandoning the city and relocating its headquarters to Nashville after just 4 years. Hours later, Tesla sent out an email to thousands of workers at its Austin Gigafactory. One line changed everything. Effective immediately, you no longer have access to Tesla systems or physical locations. 2,688 employees terminated. No warning, no transition, just gone. That same week, Microsoft shut down an entire studio. YouTube Music closed its Austin office. Rooster Teeth shut its doors forever. Cart.com moved its headquarters back to Houston. Nearly 4,000 tech jobs evaporated. And many companies didn't even file the legally required notices. Austin wasn't just losing companies. It was witnessing the collapse of an entire promise. The promise that this city would be the next Silicon Valley, the tech future of America. And while workers scrambled for their livelihoods, Texas Governor Greg Abbott fought to keep his emails with Elon Musk secret, calling them intimate and embarrassing. This wasn't a slowdown. This was the moment Austin learned. The tech boom wasn't permanent. It was a bubble, and it just burst. For years, Austin was the place companies dreamed of moving to. Tech firms from across the country packed up their headquarters and headed for Texas, drawn by the promise of lower costs, a creative culture, and a lifestyle that felt like a lighter version of California. In just over a decade, Austin attracted more corporate relocations than any other city in the state. Names like Oracle, Tesla, Apple, and Google expanded their presence, fueling the belief that Austin had become the new frontier of American innovation. But the momentum didn't last. The same companies that once saw Austin as the future began quietly scaling back, cutting jobs, or leaving altogether. What started as a few isolated layoffs slowly turned into a pattern. Gaming studios shut down, tech offices closed, and companies that once celebrated their arrival in Austin made plans to exit just as quickly. Behind the headlines was a shift no one wanted to acknowledge. The tech boom that transformed Austin was built on rapid growth, remote work, and an influx of new workers. But when hiring slowed and companies tightened costs, the weaknesses in Austin's fast rise became impossible to ignore. The city that once felt unstoppable suddenly felt uncertain. Work policies tightened and return to office requirements increased. Many workers and employers reassessed whether Austin fit long-term business needs. Housing costs in Austin also surged during the pandemic, reducing the affordability advantage that originally attracted companies. Some companies found better strategic fits in cities with stronger industry clusters, larger airports, or more established tech ecosystems. The layoffs and relocations had noticeable effects on Austin residents working in tech. With many companies downsizing at once, job seekers faced increased competition for fewer positions. Homeowners who purchased during the price peak struggled with falling home values or mortgage pressures. Workers in specialized fields, such as gaming, found fewer local opportunities and often moved to other cities to continue their careers. Austin's rise as a tech hub was measurable and dramatic. Big tech headcount in Austin grew 44%, the fastest of any large U.S. metro. Venture-backed startups grew 23% over the same period. Tesla's Gigafactory peaked at 23,000 employees, becoming Austin's largest private employer. By 2021 to 2022, more than 30,000 plus new tech workers had moved into the region. This was the height of the Silicon Hills boom. The downturn began showing up in data. Rising interest rates slowed hiring starting early 2022. Major employers like Meta, Amazon, Google, Twitter, and others began layoffs nationwide. Austin's housing prices rose faster than Los Angeles from 2021 to 2023. Rent rose high 30% between 2021 and 2023 before easing. Airport traffic grew so fast that by 2024, these issues weakened the affordable tech hub advantage. Several major events hit within months. Headquarters and office relocations Oracle announced a move to Nashville after 4 years in Austin. Cart.com moved its HQ back to Houston after 3 years in Austin. YouTube Music, 43 layoffs, office closure. Expedia Group, 64 layoffs. Bumble, 350 layoffs, 33% of staff. Intel, 251 layoffs planned to begin November 2024. TTSC Government Solutions, 650 layoffs across 2 Austin offices. Indeed, roughly 1,000 layoffs globally, portion in Austin. Big Commerce, layoffs for the 3rd straight year. Total local impact officially reported, 4,000 tech jobs cut in 2024. Analysts believe the true number is significantly higher due to non-filed notices. This was no longer a cooling, it was a contraction. Austin's HQ inflow slowed sharply. 2022, 64 HQ relocations to Austin. That's an 83% drop in just 2 years. Unsustainable pandemic growth companies that exploded during remote work hiring cut back 10 to 30% of staff nationwide by 2023-2024. Soaring cost of living, home values in Austin doubled during the pandemic. Some neighborhoods saw 80 to 120% price increases between 2015 and 2022. Mortgage rates jumped from 3% to a 6.5%, increasing monthly payments dramatically. Infrastructure limits. Austin's population grew by 30% in just over a decade. The airport served 20 million passengers in 2023 but remained small relative to demand. Texas grid failures in 2021 and heat wave strain in 2024 raised reliability concerns. Return to office pressures. Companies requiring in-office attendance pulled workers back to San Francisco, Seattle, New York, Dallas, Houston, larger airports plus corporate clusters. Worker stories in the original text illustrate broader trends. Housing losses. One worker who bought a condo sold for $320K, a $55K loss plus closing costs. Another who bought in Round Rock saw home value fall to a $420K, going $65K underwater. Job market contraction, 150 plus applications per worker were common in mid-2024. Interview-to-offer rates dropped to near zero in some tech subfields. Industry shrinkage Signal Fire reported, big tech employment in Austin declined 1.6% in 2024. Startup employment declined 4.9%. The workforce pressure was real and quantifiable. Even with the slowdown, Austin still hosts 700-plus tech companies, including major campuses by Apple, Google, Meta, Amazon, IBM, Oracle, Regional, Samsung, and Dell nearby. UT Austin continues producing thousands of tech-related graduates each year. Venture investment remains sizable, with Austin often ranking top 10 nationwide. The ecosystem is bruised, not broken. Most analysts expect slower, steady growth instead of explosive growth, more sustainable hiring patterns, continued attraction of mid-sized firms and startups, completion of airport expansion, road upgrades, and housing development shaping recovery through 2026 to 2030. Austin's overall tech share remains high. Tech jobs still make up roughly 9 to 10% of the region's workforce, well above national average. By late 2024 and early 2025, Austin's tech growth had slowed compared to previous years. Headquarters moves to the city declined, and some companies shifted operations to other Texas cities or out of state. Although Austin remains an important tech center, the rapid growth era that defined the late 2010s and early pandemic years has given way to a period of adjustment, with companies reassessing long-term strategies and the region working to address housing, infrastructure, and cost of living challenges. The impact on workers was immediate and deeply personal. People who had moved to Austin believing they were building long-term careers suddenly found themselves without jobs, competing in a shrinking market. Engineers, designers, and analysts sent out countless applications only to discover that many companies had paused hiring or were cutting roles instead of adding them. What had once been a thriving job landscape turned quiet almost overnight. Some tried to wait it out, hoping the city's momentum would return. But the slowdown wasn't temporary. Homeowners who had bought during the boom suddenly faced mortgages they could no longer afford. Others watched the value of their homes slide below what they paid. Renters who arrived expecting affordability were hit with rising costs and no steady income to support them. For many, the dream of building a life in Austin began slipping away. The city itself felt the shift. Busy tech corridors grew quieter. Office towers that once buzzed with constant activity had darkened floors. Networking events emptied out, and startup meetups that once overflowed with founders and investors became sparse. A place that had thrived on momentum was now trying to understand how it had changed so quickly and what it meant for its future. As companies scaled back, Austin began to confront the limits of its rapid growth. The city had marketed itself as a tech-friendly alternative to the coasts, a place where innovation could flourish without the high costs of major hubs. But the boom years put pressure on everything: housing, transportation, power, and public services. What drew companies in at first slowly became the reason some began to rethink staying. Infrastructure strain became impossible to ignore. Traffic congestion made commutes longer. The airport struggled to keep up with rising demand. Summer heat waves pushed the power grid to the edge. These issues didn't matter as much during the early excitement of the tech surge. But once the industry slowed and companies reassessed priorities, they became part of the equation. At the same time, the return to office shift changed the landscape. During the pandemic, Austin attracted thousands of remote workers who expected flexibility to continue. But as major tech firms pushed employees back to headquarters, many relocated once again, this time to larger coastal cities where their teams and industry networks were concentrated. Austin simply didn't have a deep enough talent base to keep everyone rooted when remote work faded. The decline in relocations and the rise in layoffs do not mean Austin has lost its entire tech industry. Instead, the city is transitioning from an unusually fast pandemic-driven boom to a more sustainable, slower growth phase. Many large employers, including Apple, Google, Meta, and Amazon, still maintain major operations in the region. However, companies are now more cautious about expansion, and the era of rapid headquarters relocations appears to have passed. Despite recent challenges, Austin retains several advantages. A large university system that produces talent, particularly the University of Texas at Austin. An established startup community with strong entrepreneurial culture. A track record of attracting creative and technical workers. A business environment that remains competitive relative to many coastal cities. These strengths help stabilize the region even during periods of industry contraction. Experts point to several areas where Austin needs improvement to remain competitive. Housing affordability. Prices rose too quickly during the boom, limiting access for new workers. Infrastructure capacity, traffic congestion, power grid reliability, and airport size have not kept pace with population and business growth. Industry diversity. The city's heavy dependence on technology makes it vulnerable when the tech sector slows. Cost of doing business. Rising commercial real estate prices and shortages of office space during the boom have reduced Austin's advantage. Companies that chose to leave or reduce their presence generally cited a combination of strategic and financial factors, including alignment with specific industry clusters in other cities, for example, healthcare in Nashville, access to larger labor pools in places like Dallas and New York, incentive packages offered by other states or municipalities, shifts toward hybrid or in-person work models that favored regions with larger transportation hubs, These decisions were part of broader national business strategies, not solely reactions to local conditions. The recent wave of layoffs and relocations reflects a correction from an unusually high growth period. Austin is shifting from a hyper-boom driven by remote work migration and rapid corporate expansion to a more mature, balanced tech ecosystem. The region still faces significant challenges, but it also retains key strengths that continue to attract investment.